Hey there, Netcode-Hub family. Frederick is back again with another exciting tutorial. Today, we are diving into the world of containers with a step-by-step guide on running your .NET 8 Web API with an SQLite database connected in Docker. If you have ever wondered how to streamline your development and deployment process, this video is for you. Stick around because by the end, you would have your API running in a containerized environment with ease. Let's get started. Imagine you are developing a microservice architecture for an e-commerce application. You know, I love e-commerce so much. Each service has its own database, and you want a lightweight, file-based database for your inventory service. SQLite is perfect for this. Now, to ensure consistency across development, staging, and production environment, you would want to containerize this setup using Docker. You can easily spin up your web API connected to an SQLite database, making your deployment seamless and scalable. And we are going to learn how to do that with ease. So let's hop to our Visual Studio and let's start doing something. You know, I don't have any project created yet. I am not going to create it with you. Yes, this is from scratch to end. Okay, so create a new project and we're going to create our web API project. We're going to perform maybe CRUD operation. We're going to add an SQLite database, perform a migration. Then we're going to generate a Docker file, made some edits in it. Then we're going to publish it. We make sure that we have our Docker desktop application installed. Then we are good to go. We can deploy it, creating our Docker Compose file and Docker file as well to run. Then we can access our endpoint through the browser. So that is what we're going to have a look in this video. Now let's start. So create a new project. And as usual, since we're going to use Web API, you choose Web API. Then give it a name and I'll choose location. So I have my name, as you can see, Demo Web API with SQLite DB in Docker. Then let's click on Next. So there are two ways of doing this. We can create our application without adding Docker support. Then at the end of the day, we can add it in there, or we can add it straight away from here. So I'll show you. This is the first step, and the second step I'll also show you. There are two options that you can use to create it. The first option is here. So as you can see we have an enable container support. So click on that. And now the container OS is going to run on Linux since I'm using Windows here. Then the container type is going to be Docker file. So let's maintain the default selected. And now in here we can go ahead and click on create. So as soon as we get this project created, we're going to have a Docker file created for us automatically, which is going to utilize with our project names and a lot. Okay, let's click on create to get this project created. Oh, that's great. So you see that we have our application created and we have our Docker file or Docker support file attached to this. So when you go to your solution explorer, you can see we have your Docker file in here and it contains some default code to create an image for this application. Now this code that it hosts in here, we are not going to touch this. We're going to add few things and now we are good to go. Not now, but later on. So let's see, now we have to install some packages. Since we're going to be working with a database, which is an SQLite to be specific, we need to install these packages talking about the EF call, the tools, SQLite, so the design and then the tools. So let's install these 4 packages. Now I have them already, so I need not to install them. But for you, if you don't have the package references, then you right click on dependencies, you go to manage NuGet packages, and then you can type in the names in here to get them installed. But for me, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to unload the project or offload the project, and after that here I'm going to paste this 4 packages references here. So you can see we need the EF core.design, we need the EF core itself, within an SQLite, that's a database management system, then we need our tool for migration. Okay, now that we have this, you can save it, and I'm going to right click on the same project again, go to restore project with dependencies, and I have this project being installed. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to rebuild this project to make sure that everything is intact and now it is working as expected. And I believe you can see that mine is succeeded. What of yours? Is it through? I believe so. Yes. So let's see, and now after we are done with this, the next thing that we're going to have a look is we need to create our model. And this is what we're going to be using. So let's have a folder in here, and I'm going to say this is models. Now these models, let's say we want to create CRUD operation on product. Okay, so with this, let's create a model and I name it as product. In that, I'm going to have maybe 3 or 4 properties for that, but maybe you can decide to add more to yours. Now I'm going to say this is product. In this product, I'm going to have ID, and that is a must. So have your prop, then this is going to give you as an ID, and aside from that, I'm going to have name for this. And as you know, a product must have a name. Maybe I'll have one again, description. Then at the end, maybe I can have quantity. You see, so I have this. That is what I am having in my database or in my model. Yeah, we can actually add more properties. This is just for testing purpose, for demo purpose. So we are not actually doing what fits e-commerce, just as a dummy one. Okay. So now that we have this, let's save this, and we need to create our, let's go to our app settings, and in here, let's specify a database connection string. You can do that in the program directly in your program.cs file, since it's an SQLite, and which does not need a whole long of what string for that. You can do it there, but you know, in good terms or in good terms, you have to put it in here for good programming practice, and put it in here as well, so that you can change it. And you don't need to rebuild this application again. You can just change it to that straight away from here, and it gets picked up, and you can move on with that. So let's say, let's have our connection string. And now in our connection strings, we want to have, so this is supposed to be like that. Good. Let's say this is SQLite. SQLite connection. And now within this, I'm going to say this is data source. This is very simple. Specify data source. And now this is YouTube db.db. That is all that you need. Very simple. So when you have this, you can copy this and keep it for now. We need to create our db context. So let's add another folder for organization purpose. And I'm going to say this is data folder. I'm going to add a class, and I believe you also have to add a class, isn't it? Yeah, so both of us, let's add class to the folder that we have created. And on this, we're going to name this as, let's say, this is app.db context or product db context. Since it's for only product, I'm going to say this is product db context. Now this product db context is going to use it's going to inherit from the db context. So let's specify a db context. Now this db context also coming from the entity framework core. So we have the namespace being injected, and aside from that, we need to create constructor. But with the help of this, we can use this IntelliSense to do it for us. Generate constructor and pass in this option. Now we can specify or copy the product or the context name, and now specify it in here. Very simple. Now the next thing I need to do here is you need to create a DB set. You know, you want to have a table in a database, isn't it? So you want to specify the database name and the table name as well. Okay, so let's see, you're going to have a prop, then this is DB set. Now let's specify which model do you want to attach in database. That is a product. Now aside from having this product, what's going to be the table name that you want to use? And the table name that I want to give is, since I have a model of product, definitely I'm going to have something like product. Well, that is mine. To you can do, you can change it to anyone that you want. So do you want us to simplify this code? Yes, we can. You know, with the help of .NET 8, we can actually use a primary constructor. I'm just going to get rid of this line and inject it into the constructor of the class that we created. Let's try that. So use IntelliSense in here, and I use primary constructor, and just on the line we have everything intact. Very simple and clear. So now that we have this, let's go to our program.cs file. Let's go and register this context, and also grab our connection string from the apsettings.json file that we specify in there. In that, we're going to do, so that's the beta.services. Now that add db context, and now what is the name? It is product db context. So specify the product db context, and in that we need some option. And now this option, let's say this is O for the option, and I'm going to use O.use SQLite. Now this SQLite, we need a connection and the section that we have specified in the apsettings.json. So we can use builder.configuration, then .get connection string. So this is going to give us the section, and now in that, what is the section name that we specify? That's an SQLite. Do you remember? We copied that connection. In order not to make mistake, and just go in there and I make a copy and then check if it is what you have typed. So just pass it in, and you're good to go. So we are done. The next thing that we're going to do here is we can run migration from here, because you have everything that we need in order to perform database migration. We can try that now. So go click on your package manager console, and in that, before we do, I want us to rebuild this project, the rebuild solution, to make sure that we have all steps in place. Then we can go ahead and perform the migration. Good. I believe yours is also done. As you can see, mine is succeeded here. Go to package manager console. I can clear screen, then add migration. Now, what is the name that you want to give it to this? I want to say first, because I love first most. Now you can see that we have our file created, and let's update the database. So update database. That's going to run and create a database and the tables and a whole lot for us. So we wait for this to be done, and now once it's done, we're going to see the database file attached to this. Yeah, we have it in here. So this is a database, so we are not going to connect to any external database. We have it attached to our project as file. Great. So now that we have this, the next thing we're going to do here is let's go to our controller. Let's start something by performing some CRUD operation. And in that, I'm going to have a new controller. This controller, I'm going to name it as product, because you're going to specify a CRUD in product. So maybe I can use this API controller with action, or let's use the read-write endpoint. Then click on, since it's an API, we go for the last one, click on next. Then let's wait and see. So we need to choose our model. Do you have a model in here? That's our product. Let's use that. Our endpoint class, and our class here, what we need is what? Is a product. So we need to choose our product. Then we need a DB context. So that's a product DB context. And from database provider as in specified already, and that's an SQLite. So we can use type results. We can use, let's click on next to get this created. So it's going to scaffold this. We wait while to get some packages installed. After doing that, it's going to update dependencies, as you can see from here. Then it's going to build the project, scaffold, and generate all the endpoint for us. So after we're done, this is done, we're going to have our create, read, update, and then delete endpoint. So we need not to create any endpoint. This will do it for us. So let's wait patiently for this. Oh, that's great. So you can see that since we chose the endpoint and we selected product, so it has created this minimal API endpoint in here for us. So you can see, instead of us creating a new controller in here, we are using this minimal API specified in this. As you can see, the product endpoint. Now, after creating this product endpoint, what it's going to do here is it's going to use this and register this here. So you can see when it comes to the program, the CS file, it has mapped the endpoint which has been created in here, and that is all. So that's a good thing about minimal APIs too. Alright, so let's go back to our product service, and in here our product endpoint or product model. Now you can see from here we have our product, and aside from that, we're getting all the products in here from a DB context, and we are also getting by ID, and we are also doing what? So this is we are updating it, and that is we name as update product, and then we have this is add product, then we have delete product. So you can see that we did not touch this, but it has been created for us. We have 4 ACRAs specified in here. That's good thing about the EF core. And that's in .NET 8. Yes, that's fantabulous. Okay, so now that we have this created and set, let's run this application and check it out. So the app is ready and it is kicking alive. So you can see that from here, if I click on get products, I am at get empty list. If it is well connected, great, it is connected. So in order to also prove again, let's add one product. Let's make it default. Alright, so we have the product being added to the database. If I go to get our product, let's say we're going to get it. Yes, we have it. So we can add multiple products in here, and now this is going to be saved in the database. Now if I go in there to get it again, yeah, we have it. So you can see that our database here, it is connected, our API is active, and it is working. We can perform our operations in here. That's great. Now the core motive of this video is where we are now. How do we run this in Docker? How do you run this in Docker? That is what we need to have a look. Alright, so let's close this. And also, when you close it, we go to our Docker file. This was created for us automatically, so we need not to do this ourselves. This okay. Now what we're going to do here is, before the entry point, let's also copy our database, because we need to attach a database to this app folder. That's a working directory, so that as soon as the app launches, it can get connected to the database, and after that to create a Docker Compose file to run this anytime that we issue Docker Compose app. This is quite simple. Great. So in line 30, let's put some code in here. But before we do that, let's check the name of the project. So this is a project. And now where can we find the SQLite database? You can see it is in the root. As you can see from here, that is the project folder. That is where it has the database. So this is what we can do. We're going to say, please do copy. Not I'm going to copy. Go to the root in here, and in that there's a file known as YouTube. So let's go in there and grab this. The name of this database, YouTubeDB.db. So copy. Now when you copy this, what should it do with it? No problem. Please do paste it into our root folder. So copy from our end and now paste it into the end of the image. Alright, so we have this. Now let's save this. Then let's go in there and create our Docker Compose file, which we're going to be using to build this into an image. Now in that, let's right click on the project, go to add new item, and a new item, search for YAML file. So you're going to have it in here, name it as Docker Compose. Docker Compose. And now with this, what I think that we need to do here, we need to specify our service, our version. But since we are having the Docker version of 3.2 plus, it means you can decide to skip the version. If you want to check the Docker version, maybe your package manager console, you can check it from here. So Docker itself, you can check the version, and currently I have the version of 26.1.1. You want to check the compose version, you can type in docker-compose then that's version 2, and this is going to have something like 2.27 plus. So with this, you can decide not to specify the version, okay, because in the news update it is covered, so you can decide to skip that. But I did not show you one thing. Do you have the Docker desktop already installed? Because if you're not having that installed, then if you type in Docker version, you're not going to get this. So in order to do that quickly, let me locate this. Let me pull out my browser. Let's find a space to go and get that. So no need to worry yourself at all, because I'm going to leave this link in there. If you if you can't see this link, that is just download Docker desktop will link you up in here. You can see we have the Windows version, and if you're not using Windows, using Mac, then you know what to do, right? So you can just go in there to the versions and try to locate or get your own Docker desktop. You can just get your own based on the operating system that you are using in there. You see we have all of them in here for Mac, Linux, and we have the Windows. But you know, since you're using Windows, that is what you need to go for. Great. So now that we have our Docker desktop installed nicely, let's go ahead and create our Docker Compose file. So in here, the first thing that we need to do is to specify our services. So let's put it there. That's going to be our services. Now in our services, we want to have access to our web API. Now in the web API and our build session, what you want to do, you want to specify the context. So maybe the space is too big. So that is context. Now context, we use dot for that. Then let's specify our Docker file. So what is the name? That is Docker file. This can be found in your project. So you go to solution, and that is file that we created in here, a Docker file. Okay. Now aside from this, what is the next thing that we need to do? We need to specify our image. Now this is going to be on the next line. So here we have an image. And what is the name of the image that you want to give to this? That's going to be YouTube, maybe API. Aside from that, we want to specify our port. Now we want to use only HTTP port. Okay, so in that, let's map this to 8080 because we specified that already. So we map it in here, 8080. And aside from that, we need to map our volume. So maybe on the line here, let's have our volumes. And now let's have access to so let's go in there and grab our project. So we copy the project in here. Then let's go to our compose file. We paste it up. We want to locate that is a YouTube DB, right? What's the name of the database? Let's have a look. That is a YouTube DB. So we grab this. Then in here, .db. Then we're also going to have app/.db. So you can see this app here, it is a working directory that we created. And that's what we are referring up to. That is a physical directory that we have in our project. Okay, so we have our project in here. Then we have our database. Then we have our working directory and our database also as well. Okay, now the next thing that we're going to do here is we need to specify the environment. Since we're going to run this in the development mode, we need to specify the environment and now set the environment to development mode so that we can use the 8080 port. You see, that is the port for HTTP. So in here, under that, we can have access to development. So let's say we have environment. Now with this environment, under the environment, we can have ASP.NET. So before we build this, let's go to our project folder. Now we see in our project we have the Docker Compose file, and now the Docker file in there. We're going to move this to where we have the solution, and after doing that, then let's go to our project, open your package manager console, and then there let's build this project. So you're going to use Docker Compose, then build. Now this is going to take some time, so we wait for this to get built. After that, we're going to up this. Yeah, so it is done. As you can see, the final stage was that's the line 18. That is to copy our database, the SQLite file that we created, and we specified it has copied to the root folder. That's great. Such amazing. All right, so the next thing that we're going to do here is we're going to verify whether we have our database. We have the API project, the image of it in our Docker. So you can see that in our Docker desktop, we have the YouTube API in here. That's great. Latest, and which was created 1 second ago. 295. Good. Now, when you go to container, it is not running now. We have nothing running in here, and you can see it is not in use because we have not up the Docker Compose file that we created. So let's up it. So I'm going to type in Docker Compose, then up. So up is going to launch it, and now down will just close it. And I can see it is now working. But let's try and see whether we can have access to our product, our database. Let's make sure it is running. Okay, yes, so you can see we have now, it is running. Now let's add record to that. Now you can see it is insert. And now if when you open Docker, you go to container, then you can see we have this API running. So when you click on this, we can have 1 task 2. Alright, so we have our logs, and I can see we have this insert. So we're going to add another one. Once I do add, let's see. So we are adding the new record, and I can see it has been inserted. And now let's try to get a record and see. So execute. Now you can see we have a record in here, right? So you can see we have select, and that has retrieved all the records that we have. So in today's tutorial, we've covered how to set up and run .NET Web API with an SQLite database inside a Docker container. We started with the basic project, configured the SQLite connection string, and also we wrote a Docker file. Then in the Docker file, we did not write all. We updated it. Then we used the Docker Compose to bring it all together, ensuring our environment is consistent and portable. Now this, we made it into a development stage. This setup is perfect for lightweight and file-based database needs, especially when you're dealing with microservices architecture. Thanks for watching. If you found this tutorial helpful, do not forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more tutorials. Until next time, keep coding and stay awesome.